Hey everybody, Eugene Mulero with Transport Topics, and I'm here with my colleague Jonathan Reiskin, Associate News Editor at Transport Topics. And Jonathan, this week on Capitol Hill, the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee is going to mark up a bill on Thursday, and it's an FAA reauthorization 6-year package that would revamp the provisions across the aviation industry. But for the trucking industry, we care because it includes a provision that will block states from enacting requirements related to meal and rest breaks for truckers. And this is something that's been going on in the trucking industry for a while.
Indeed, it has, Eugene. One of the frequent questions I get, and I think most reporters here get, is why are you talking to me about the FAA? And we all, of course, like plane safety, but once upon a time there was a Federal Aviation Administration Authorization Act of 1994, and part of that included a provision on trucking. Congress told the nation that states may not regulate trucking companies on routes, service, and pricing, that either that was to be deregulated or it was to be a federal responsibility, but the states weren't going to do it because one of the things that trucking has long feared is having 50 state governments regulate trucks on how they can behave. Yeah, they can do it on safety, but in terms of economic operations, that's considered a nightmare if every time you cross a state line, you have a different set of rules.
Yeah, of course.
So in California, the California legislature and state government has said we want to guarantee a meal break for commercial drivers. And trucking has been fighting this, saying no, that's a regulation of pricing, routes, and services, and therefore a federal-only responsibility. So once again, there is something about this tucked in, the FAAA or F4A, to say no, you can't do this.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that this provision in this FAA bill that the T&I committee is going to take up is a provision that was included in what is now the FAST Act. The House had it in its version, and it was sponsored by Congressman Jeff Denham of California. When the FAST Act went into conference, the House lawmakers with the senators, it was removed, and ultimately it was taken out by the time it reached the White House. What we're hearing so far is senior Democrats over on the House side are strongly opposed to this provision, and they have vowed to take it out when it is considered before the panel.
Yeah, it's a very small provision considering the overall emphasis on aviation, the overall length, but this has gotten some attention.
Yeah. And also, this is today is the last time that the Obama administration is going to put out a budget. And in transportation, they're calling for $4 billion for autonomous vehicle technology. And they're also, the administration made some big headlines in the transportation community by proposing to get oil companies to pay $10 a $10 tax per barrel fee, and this is something that American Petroleum Institute came out strongly against.
I would imagine so, yes, but there is a heavy element of irony here, in that in the run-up to FAST Act, there was a lot of discussion by trucking saying that you should tax petroleum, specifically refined diesel, refined gasoline, and use that to stock the Highway Trust Fund. Now the president is talking about taxing crude oil at $10 a barrel, part of which would go to transportation programs, other parts would go to his climate agenda on carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases. But a tax on petroleum is pretty much a carbon tax, and that's what trucking has been asking for, is to have the user fees from diesel and gasoline pay for roads, and now we're getting it from the oil side at a time when yesterday on the New York Mercantile Exchange, oil closed a hair under $30 per barrel. So this would be a good time to tax oil to the extent that people say it doesn't cost much now, so if you put in this tax now, it will be less painful. So if you're a proponent of such a tax increase, this would be an ideal time to do it.
Yeah, but transportation experts have told us that they really don't think this Obama proposal is going to go anywhere, especially in the GOP-led Congress.
Yes, there's a long history of the president proposing various things in great detail, which he's supposed to do, and we appreciate that for any president. And there's a long history of Congress ignoring many of these things.
And speaking of presidential contests, over in New Hampshire, the Republicans had a debate on Saturday, and we had a very rare mention of transportation. Former Governor Jeb Bush, during the debate, he said that under his watch, he would devolve transportation responsibilities back to the states, and that's something that's been very controversial around Capitol Hill. And then also the governor from Ohio made some headlines.
He did. John Kasich of Ohio, in a discussion on veterans issues, said that he wants it to become easier for veterans to get jobs once they return. So he used truck drivers, of all people, as an example, saying that if you can drive a truck between Kabul and Kandahar in Afghanistan, why can't you drive a truck from Cleveland to Columbus, Ohio, said the Ohio governor. And so he's picking up a note that people have asked for, saying that if you've done substantial work in truck driving in the military, you should be welcomed with open arms into domestic trucking.
And he has support from some senior Republicans in the Senate on that front. Jonathan, thank you. And for all that and coverage of the FAA reauthorization bill, please check out ttnews.com, and Capital Agenda comes out on Tuesdays. Thanks.